Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue. We are live on both TikTok and YouTube, and so are you, or at least are live. I hear it doesn't last long, you should probably enjoy it. We are going to be talking wrestling news as always, and we have plenty to go over today. We're going to be talking the draft incoming, we're going to be talking the Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair feud, a little bit about why we're getting the draft around this period. Nothing announced yet, but very much incoming, but it's all SEO related. We're going to talk the TLC match that we saw on Smackdown. We've got breaks impending or already active for a number of wrestlers such as Cody Rhodes, Gunther, and more afterwards to discuss. We're going to talk Drew McIntyre dropping down the card the way that he has so that Jacob Fatu can essentially overtake him, which is going to be an interesting one. And we've got a little bit more as regards the reporting from WrestleVotes on Karrion Kross. There are some changes coming to Karrion Kross, and it's a pretty big one that's going to make a lot of people quite happy. But before we get to that, we'll of course start with our top news, which is the WWE Draft. I want to say hi to everyone who's already joined us. We've already got donations. Thank you very much, Jess. I appreciate you on the TikTok side. Already 59 people on YouTube. Remember to hit the thumbs up and remember to keep the chat rating as we get into our news. We'll always like to start with a bit of news, and we're going to start with that as always. So please remember to watch the pig. Is everyone watching the pig? Can you see the pig? And we'll get started. The WWE aren't eager to announce the draft too early because they're worried that the column inches and SEO will be swallowed up by the NFL draft. That is why we typically have it around this time every year, but it's usually right on top of the other draft. They may have pushed it back on this one to make some space for it, but ultimately WWE wants to take advantage of the SEO as best they can. When it comes to the draft incoming, they're already creating a need for it, a requirement, by using Raw and SmackDown appearances from NXT wrestlers. But in the months preceding, for WrestleMania of course, they were able to take advantage of the fact that Triple H doesn't like a brand split and just forget that it was really happening. That was literally how they are looking to justify the draft, by doing it without telling anyone. So it's happening in front of the screen right before your eyes. This is of course why we're seeing Roxanne Perez, Julia and Stephanie Vaca arriving the way that they have. For Roxanne Perez, it's a reintroduction. Original plans did involve working with Bayley, but they now have to reintroduce her to the world. Julia and Stephanie Vaca, despite competing for championships at the moment on NXT, are still considered the future of the main roster, so making them appear at least in a championship match right from the off is a brilliant way to get this draft going. It also directly links to Jade Cargill challenging Tiffany Stratton. This is something that you might expect WWE to save. Something you'd expect WWE to keep hold of until way further down the line, but there is talk of Jade Cargill and or Tiffany Stratton making some moves. What I'm hearing is that Jade Cargill versus Naomi as a feud is being considered to move to the other side, to Raw, the intention being that Bianca Belair would travel with them, resulting in the Bianca Belair Rhea Ripley feud that we all know is coming. Bianca Belair Rhea Ripley is something that the WWE want to put on as the night one main event of WrestleMania, or at least that is something that is actively being considered because they are going to be engaging in the weeks to come. We will see more as regards the draft. I'm not expecting any championships to change hands. There is a potential for John Cena to move over, but this would not be a draft or a brand split thing. This would be a I'm John Cena and I go where I want thing. So the WWE attempting to justify the draft by having people come up from NXT, but the main driving forces are active ongoing feuds, such as Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley. One thing I do have to mention before we wrap up what we're talking about when it comes to the draft, Triple H is not a fan of the draft. He is not a fan of the brand split. It is Nick Khan who is eager to have more focus on a draft and the SEO that comes with it. Triple H, you see, is not a man who likes the idea of a reshuffle. So it might not be so blatant and so heralded as he usually, as we usually see. Because under Triple H, we are likely to see a large abandonment of the draft concept as he tries to move away from it and have wrestlers move back and forth willy-nilly however they so desire. Plenty more news to come. I'll catch up with the chat a little bit here. We've got 108 people now on the YouTube side. Only 34 likes. Let's keep those thumbs up coming. See if we can get to 40 before we next talk news. I'm going to catch up as well. We have on TikTok over 1,200 already. People saying hi. Thank you, Everton. Confirming what I've already reported. Per PWInsider, Roxanne Perez and Julia are expected to be called up to the Raw brand soon. Roxanne Perez has already been called up to the Raw brand. They've just been formalising it and relaunching her because she lost her Mania spot. As regards Julia, we knew that one was coming. I've already discussed it. Julia versus Rhea Ripley is being actively discussed while we wait for Ripley versus Belair. Dan Sharp says, hey Tom, I see Danhausen is debating to join WWE as he is unsure. Have you heard this or debunked? What's your source there, Dan? I've not personally seen any news about that. Everton says, no point in the draft to have every superstar available for any show. That is not something that a number of the different channels are likely to enjoy. USA Network like having their own people. Paul says, I'm glad Indy Hartwell is signed for TNA instead of AEW. Indy Hartwell will get more opportunities in TNA than AEW. Quite possibly it's a much smaller group. Pardon me. Roy says, TNA Rebellion was a very good pay-per-view. Enjoyed it up until Trick Williams attacked Joe Hendry. Yes, this is so Joe Hendry can attack Trick Williams back and potentially get that NXT feud that we have apparently all been waiting for. Cecil says, good evening, Mr. Colohue and chat. Welcome, Cecil. Sid says, will we see Pat McAfee versus Gunther in the future? More on that shortly. I do expect we're going to get at least some match between them. Ray says, I went crazy when Indy Hartwell was interviewed at TNA Rebellion. She announced she signed with TNA. Can't wait to hear what she has to say on this Thursday's TNA show. Plenty of people dropping chat rate, and I appreciate you for that. Michael says, hi, Tom. Welcome, Michael. No, Sean, I don't see Indy appearing on NXT now that she's part of TNA. The WWE want who they want, and it's a very small amount of people. Ashley, I've not heard of any WWE interest in Thekla. Mayu Iwatani has been mentioned. Howdy and Y6 is asking about the Y6 and Alexa Bliss. I can confirm the creative team and Bo Dallas have agreed on a storyline. It's just a case of getting it kicked off. I did think it would be this Friday just past. Unfortunately, that was not to be. Gold says, hi Tom, I want to ask if you know anything about AEW Mariah May, because everyone is saying she's WWE bound, but I feel like she's already re-signing of AEW and just trolling everyone. She's not already re-signed, however, nobody can confirm at this point which company she's going to choose. I have heard that there is interest from WWE, but I've heard that AEW are willing to offer her a substantial sum, likely far and above what the WWE will offer. Does that mean she's guaranteed to choose AEW? No. Ultimately, it comes down to an individual making their own choice. Everton says, 2-night SummerSlam 2025 are costing over $40,000 for both nights. They're definitely not. You definitely can't. There are definitely options for a cheaper ticket, I promise you that. Everton thinks we'll see Logan Paul versus Jey Uso for Backlash. SNH says, is the last real tribal chief going to return tonight? No, that happens on SmackDown with Jacob Fatu. We have plenty of people still saying hi. Thank you very much for that one. Joey says, where do you think Mayu Iwatani ends up? Probably back at Stardom, personally. Ed is excited for Draft Talk. Welcome, Zena. Joey says, do you think EO could face Roxanne at Backlash? I'm leaning towards that being the obvious one, yeah. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. And we have a troll. Somebody doesn't understand the English language. Everyone, look at what Melina said. Then say hi to the troll and bye to the troll. Gold says, what's going on with the White Six and Alexa Bliss? I've already detailed it. We're just waiting for it to kick in. Autumn says, Tom, you're awesome. I don't care what anyone says. Mostly everything that you've reported has come true. Keep up the great work and watch the pig. Thank you, Autumn. That's a very nice thing to say. A very nice thing to read. I appreciate you for it. Calvin says, do you know what's going on with Adam Pearce? Yes, he is currently the acting general manager. Irish welcome. Unique Unicorn is also watching a pig. Sid said, I was very angry to see Zelina Vega win the US title. She's done nothing to get a title match. She's not a good wrestler. I hope Zelina Vega loses the title ASAP. So Sid, very upset. Autumn says, hopefully we see the Wides tonight or Friday night. Cecil says, were you surprised the Wide 6 were not on SmackDown on Friday? I thought they might. I said on Friday, I thought tonight might be the night. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened as of yet. Sean says, Tom, I'm probably the only one that didn't like Becky's heel turn. Becky isn't hateable. Oh, she can be. She really can be. But you are certainly entitled to your opinion. And hopefully, you still enjoy it, Sean, which is the most important thing for me. Agent Harker says, is seen it on Raw this or next week? I believe he was announced for Raw this week. Everton says, Rhea Ripley's on a winless run at the moment. Crazy. Yeah, but she's Rhea Ripley. So you don't even realise. Daz says, big up Tom, do you know who Rusev's first feud will be with? Also like and shared. Daz, the suggestion seems to be that Rusev versus Otis will be what we start out with. Noob says, hello Mr. Colohue, how are you doing today? Doing very well, thank you Noob. Galvin says, when do you think a new member of Seth's faction will be revealed? I would say tonight or at Backlash. Personally, I think we need to give it a little time for Bron Breakker to really sink his teeth into the role. I don't want him to be completely forgotten and lost in the shuffle when someone else appears. John says, I'm so glad Randy Orton gave John Cena another RKO on SmackDown. Cecil says, thanks Troll for the chat rate. Could you watch the pig as well? Bye Troll. Loving the high troll and the bye troll. That's how we do it here. That is how we do it. We have 124 people on the YouTube side now. Chat rate is going up because of people taking the piss out of the troll. Likes are 44. Let's keep that going. Let's get into our next piece of news. So, we've spoken about the draft there. I now want to speak about SmackDown and TLC in particular, because this is an area where there are quite a lot of upset people backstage in WWE. Now, we're not talking martyrdom. We're not talking mutiny. We're talking Triple H let them down. The Motor City Machine Guns, the Street Profits and DIY were furious to have been left off the WrestleMania card, and the locker room, both in Raw and on SmackDown, very much agreed with them. Triple H gave them an apology and tried to apologise on screen by giving them a lot of time and focus during last week's SmackDown. But all 6 men went into SmackDown with a point to prove. I'd imagine you'll notice that, because they put on an absolute banger. They got a lot of time. There was a leg that was involved. I gotta say, I love TLC. What did you guys think? Next up will be a piece on Becky Lynch and what the WWE are trying to achieve with her heel run. Fiend to Society says, will Becky play into the Becky Hogan debate? Yes. She knows what she's doing and she's simply not going to ignore something like that. Joey's asking about the Drew and Jacob feud. Roughly, yes, I will be getting to that. See, I feel like we've got like proper meme stuff now. There are catchphrases and things that happen every show, and I absolutely love it. There's Watch the Pig, there's Chat Rate, there's High Troll and Bye Troll. You guys are great. Paul says, do you prefer WWE on Netflix or the WWE Network? Netflix, because I can get it as a business expense and have more benefit from it than I did the network. Calvin says, do you see Pat McAfee challenging Ludwig Kaiser at Backlash? No, because Ludwig Kaiser and Gunther are not directly associated at this point. Bad says, why are they not finishing that Wyatt 6 faction? There is already Flop Project, which is ruining Alexa's time at WrestleMania moments too. Ishii says, when do you think we'll see the Wyatt 6 storyline kick in? Imminently. I genuinely thought we were going to see it on Friday, but it didn't happen. Sean says, I know people have wanted Austin Theory in Seth's faction. I prefer Grayson Waller myself. Calvin says, why do I feel like A-Town Down Under is going to break up tonight? I think you've been waiting for a while for it, mate. I hope it happens for you. Sean says, the TLC match was amazing. Ken says, hey Tom, PWInsider reported today this next week could be big for Liv Morgan. Okay. That's very vague. Very vague. And tells me absolutely nothing about what might actually happen. Very vague. Everton says, still though, how you can leave them off the card is unreal. I get they only got the War Raiders on because of the Clash of Clan sponsor because they are Vikings. That's not the only reason. The main reason they were on the card is not actually not Viking Raiders, War Raiders at all. It's about the New Day and the intentions for the New Day. The New Day are the record tag team holders, and they will long continue doing that. My phone just got a notification and buzzed. If you're watching on TikTok, did you hear that? Was it uncomfortable? Do I need to silence it properly when I go live? Because that shouldn't have happened. Ooh. Ashley says the match was awesome. Cecil says tables, legs and chairs. Oh my. Roy says, did you like Great Balls of Fire PLE name? Yes, and you know what else I loved? Great Balls of Fire. Great PLE. Absolutely loved it. Would absolutely watch it again, and have done. Everton and Jess both completely disagree as regards the notification. I don't know. Oh, right. Okay, Everton. I get you. Joey says, does WWE plan on building Aleister Black up for a US title match? He is not currently planned to compete for the United States Championship. James says, hi Tom, hope all is well. Will the Wyatts be at SmackDown on May 2nd? I will be there in person to watch. Then you will know better than I, unfortunately. As I say, I'm confident that their storyline is now set. They just didn't make the appearance. Danae says, all three tag teams definitely proved their point and deserve to be on the Mania card. Triple H could listen to his consumers, pardon me, I do apologise, and tell them more, it would help. Noob says, what's going on with the rest of Damage Control? Looks like a mess, too many injuries, and it was a waste of Asuka's time being on a faction. It really wasn't, because if she wasn't in that faction, she wouldn't have been on TV at all. That's reality. As regards the injuries, yeah, of all 4 members of Damage Control, 3 of them are near constantly injured. It's a problem. Danny says, hey Tom, thank you so much for keeping us Wyatt 6 fans in the know. I appreciate it. I got you, Danny. No worries. Fiend to Society says, what's next for LA Knight? More Drew McIntyre, more Jacob Fatu, and probably a rest. Gordy says the TLC match was great, also helped that the match was commercial free. Ishii says the Wyatt 6 is going to be part of the draft. We are waiting to find out. I do not know for certain who's moving where just yet, though I have, of course, speculated on it. Rocky, I did not confirm names at the time. I am not confirming names now. I'm just aware that there was more than one. Paul says the TNA fans were chanting "You are racist" to Tessa Blanchard in a knockout title match at TNA Rebellion. Might have something to do with the racism. Everton says, I'd love to see Black in feud with the Wyatts. Promos and vignettes would be amazing to watch. And just as Alistair has been selling that eye injury for 5 years, is this a commentary on how expensive healthcare is? I mean, he does have free healthcare back home. Sean says, on Insight with Chris Van Vliet, Bayley said when she first pitched Damage Control, she wanted Toni Storm, Raquel Rodriguez and Alba Fire in the group. Would still have been awesome, though I will say she did mention Dakota Kai, and it is what got Dakota Kai her job back. Being to Society says, who would you have win Money in the Bank this year for men and women? Interesting question. And yes, that was me buying time. I'd be tempted to give it to CM Punk again. I just think he could do interesting things with it. There's some good choices. I worry that they're going to give it to Jade Cargill, which I feel is massively too early. But you never know. There's a number of good options there who could really fit quite nicely to it. Lara Valkyria, for example. She's being built quite well now. Roy said a very good SmackDown after WrestleMania with an amazing TLC tag team title match. Aleister Black returns to form and John Cena gets personal with Randy Orton. Hello, Kelly. Good to see you. Zeno says the story will be the Wyatt 6 versus JD, or the JD storyline will be starting at the road of SummerSlam. Good to know. Thank you for telling me. Sean says some fans don't like that news of Julia being called up. They claim it's too early for her. It's not. As I said, we saw reports at the time that Julia was going to have a massive streak similar to what happened with Asuka. I remember saying at the time, no, she's not. No, she's not. And she didn't. Didn't happen. So it's interesting hearing people now say that she's not ready when they're the ones complaining about it from the off as well. I've muted notifications. Thanks for letting me know, Jess. Ooh. Eric says, good evening, Tom. How are you doing? Any news on damage control? I did report on recovery. Kairi Sane, for example, is now cleared. Asuka is not, and there are concerns long-term about Dakota Kai. Eric says, I'm just happy that who shall not be named didn't win last night. Last night, of course, being Sunday. And TNA. Eric says, Roxanne would be great, which would not be a bad shout. Fiend says, I give the contract to Naomi and Seth Rollins. I think Bron Breakker then would be an easy one. Marcel says, I have Bron Breakker and Roxanne at winning the Money in the Bank. So, we are going on to our next piece of news now. Give me in the chat, while we're doing this, your predictions for the draft. Who do you see moving across in different directions? Give me your predictions in the chat. While we get to our next piece, which is as regards the current news of Becky Lynch and the reason she turned heel. There is a lack of heels in the women's division at the moment that are at the top level. Charlotte Flair is an obvious one to pick, Nia Jax being another, but ultimately when it comes to top heels, it's a struggle at times to really make them stick, particularly on Raw. Io Sky, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair all went into WrestleMania as faces. You've got a number of others. Jade Cargill is, of course, a face, which is why I've seen Naomi turning heel, but there's plenty more in that field. With that in mind, with the undercard stacked with faces rather than heels and up-and-comers, it was decided that Becky Lynch should be a heel going forward. It also does start to build towards a long-term plan. I'm just going to throw this out there and see who picks this ball up. Becky Lynch versus Stephanie Vaquer. Just thought I'd throw that out there and see who picks up on that one. For the moment, Becky Lynch will be working with Lara Valkyria. There is a Bayley feud in the near future. That Intercontinental Championship will be competed for with a number of people lower down the card. And then former NXT champion Stephanie Vaquer could well get very, very involved. Becky Lynch versus Stephanie Vaquer will be an amazing match. And I do feel that that is why you need a heel Becky Lynch. Because while we have a heel Bianca Belair set to go against a heel Rhea Ripley, you still need everyone for the top names. Who Charlotte Flair faces at WrestleMania is hard to say. With everything that happened on the roast, I'd lean towards Nia Jax myself, but there's also talk of that being the Jade Cargill match next year as well. So it's difficult to work out what the big steps are, but for me, give me that Becky Lynch match. I'd be there for it. Becky Lynch is there to make other people look good. As regards she herself, she's focused on the future. Welcome, McKay. Good to see you, mate. Where were we? So, Zeno says Julia versus Io for the title at SummerSlam will be a banger. I do suspect that is where we're heading. And I do think it will be SummerSlam as well. John says, I think they just want Julia to win the belt back from Stephanie and have a long reign with it. They may want that. That's not what WWE wants. Julia was brought in to compete on the main roster. She was never going to be in NXT for long, as I've reported. Welcome, Andrew. Good to see you, mate. Calvin says, Trickshaw left Hendry motionless last night. Fiend to Society has Ethan Page and Wesley. Marcel has Cody to Raw. Ishii says, have Judgment Day move to SmackDown so we can get Y6 versus JD. Dad says, Penta goes to SmackDown. Sid says, I wouldn't have them face Orton till Orton turns heel. I think DIY Candice makes most sense. We need to dig into each of the Wyatt Six backstory. This will help us understand them better. And I do agree with that. Fiend to Society is excited about that Becky Lynch match. Ross says, evening Tom, heading back to the start. Welcome Ross, thank you very much, and I'll see you when you catch up. Sean says, do you see Becky winning the women's IC title? Yes, I very much do. Noom says, we got Becky Lynch as a heel, Liv Morgan as a top heel, but for a main event heel, you might as well turn Asuka heel. There is no intention for that. Damage Control are faces at the moment. As regards Liv Morgan, the WWE are respecting her work, and there is thought being given right now to a potential face turn for Liv Morgan, given the overall strength and popularity of her character. Not saying that's what we're going to see anytime soon, but there is thought being given to it. Eric says to SmackDown, Liv Morgan, Roxanne call up, Damage Control, Julia call up to Raw, Trick Williams call up, Ethan Page joins the Dangerous Alliance, Malachi and Zelina Vega. Calvin says prediction, Lyra will come out and attack Becky, Liv and Raquel will attack Lyra and Bayley returns and makes a save. The numbers game becomes too much and Seth, Paul and Braun come out. That is exactly where Becky Lynch is going. Ray says I wasn't happy to see the Nemeth beat the Hardys for the TNA tag team titles. Tony says, Tom, did you not think Alexa needs to leave that spooky character? No, she likes it, and if she's happy. Danae says, when Stephanie does drop the NXT women's title, who do you see beating her for it? Hard to say. I'm kind of expecting, to be honest, she vacates like she did with the North American. That works better for me. Sean says, did you see Meltzer gave the women's triple threat at WrestleMania 5 stars? He gave Cena, Cody and Charlotte Tiffany 1 star. Charlotte Tiffany was a good match. Solid match. No name is watching the pig. Sid said the YouTube stream is going perfect. Thank you. And Itchy says, Tom, do you know when the draft is happening? No, I reported for a while it was happening right after WrestleMania. It has been confirmed by PWInsider as we got closer to it. So I'm just waiting for it to be announced. Good fella says, cheers, Tom. Hope you had a good Mania week. Good weekend, Mania. Any rumblings about Ethan Page going to main roster? Dan Sharp, who's been right in the past, says Ethan Page to Raw with Karrion. With Karrion. Interesting. I do see Ethan Page potentially being called up. They didn't really have much in the way of plans for him in NXT other than introducing him in a big way. The main roster's who wanted him. Jess says LA Knight to Raw because he's been in the Bloodline vortex for too long. Everton agrees with LA Knight to Raw and have the Dom feud for him. Ethan Page Raw call up to join Braun and Seth. A lot of interesting parties here. A lot of interested parties. Fiend to Society says, do you want to turn heel? No. I'm not that much of a dick. Zeno says Roman to Raw to feud with a new Evolution. Jay to SmackDown, the Wyatt Six to Raw. And Sid says people still defending The Rock's comments on Pat McAfee show. Yeah, people are mad. Zeno also says Ethan joins the new Evolution. Next up then. There is a number of WWE talent who have breaks coming up and a number of WWE talent who WWE suggested take some time off in the gap between WrestleMania and SummerSlam. This is intentional. Quite a few of the big names will be taking some time off between WrestleMania and SummerSlam with the idea that this would free up slots for up-and-coming talent to prove themselves and for call-ups to start to embed themselves in front of a new audience. I'm told that the Cody Rhodes break, which I exclusively reported here on Spoiler Warning, will extend for quite a while, at least giving time for the Orton versus Cena feud to play out. Gunther will be taking a little time off to go home and spend some time with his family after a long time working and feeling a bit banged up in the process, so he is looking for a rest. And Randy Orton as well, who works a limited day contract, is likely to take some time away after his feud with Cody Rhodes completes. Roman Reigns will also be taking some time off before SummerSlam, but he's apparently looking to embed the Seth Rollins-Paul Heyman alliance first in order to make sure that people have got the momentum behind them that they need. So, breaks for Cody Rhodes, as exclusively reported here. Gunther, Randy Orton and Roman Reigns are incoming. This is designed to free up space for up-and-coming talent to make their mark on the WWE roster. This is one of the reasons we've seen a lot more women than we have previously. It's one of the reasons Zelina Vega picked up the win, because now we're after the fact Triple H is said to be looking to really start pushing the women's division. That means Chelsea Green, that means Lyra Valkyria, that means Nia Jax, Naomi, all of the above. A couple of things left to talk about. It's the Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu switch, and of course everything going on with Karrion Kross. Gold says Triple H must be the happiest man right now with that stacked roster, but knowing him, he wants other names. Kevin says, so far no news about Evolution 2 PLE. WrestleVote's wrong report. Yep, as I have reported, particularly in the Wrestling Receipt, which is available on YouTube. Yeah, not even close. Welcome, JJTT. Thank you very much for following. I appreciate you. Andrew, I have seen Jonathan Coachman's video. What I will say, while I do agree with the overall sentiment, Jonathan Coachman does not get things right, and he's never really got things right. Everton says I'd have Kross win the Money in the Bank. Eric says, do you see Jordynne Grace going to the main roster in the draft? No, not personally. I think she is competing for NXT championships for 6 months to a year before getting that call-up, so she can learn the WWE style. Being to Society says Gunther should pursue the WWE title soon. I don't believe that is the plan while Cena is champion. Ray says, is Chelsea Green taking time off? Not sure on this one. I think it's certainly possible if she takes a little time away. And Sean says, good to see Wrestling Observer and Corey Hayes confirm your report that Randy picked Joe Hendry as his Mania opponent because he is a fan of his work. I've mentioned a number of times, Randy Orton is now looking to the future. He really wanted a feud with Tommaso Ciampa when Tommaso Ciampa was in NXT, and Randy Orton keeps his ear to the ground as to where the top talent is. He wants to build a future for a lot of wrestlers, and unfortunately, he won't always get the opportunity. So with not that long left, a lot of wrestlers right now, we have like an aging population, but of wrestlers, are looking to give back. Fiend to Society says Chelsea Green would make a great women's Money in the Bank holder. Joey says, do you see Kross going babyface after the big reactions? More on that shortly. Sean says, Joe told Ariel Hawani on his podcast he got a text from Triple H a week before WrestleMania asking if he was available to talk. Joe thought it was maybe to cut a promo at WWE World. Yep, I discussed that last week. It was literally that soon, but they were confident they'd get their man. Everton says, Cena versus Fatu down the line, please, please, please. Dan Sharp says, Zilla Fatu is going to have a great year this year. WWE watching closely with Booker. Good signs so far. Gordy says, when it comes to the draft, I won't be surprised if they decided whoever is the champion on their respective brands stay where they are. That's the suggestion I'm hearing. No more championship swaps or trades. The only ones who would potentially swap over would be the women's tag team champions. So it said, Mercedes Money is set to make wrestling history, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, if Money competes at the upcoming AEW Grand Slam Mexico event. What history? Sid, you've said she's going to make history, but what history? Calvin says, split A-Town down under. Theory stays on Raw, goes for the IC title. Waller moves to SmackDown, goes for the US title, but not before a SmackDown versus Raw feud. Juan says, hey Tom, in an interview, Triple H said that if fans don't like the product, they should F off. How come fans don't make a big deal about it, but if TK says it, it's a disaster? Because what Triple H has that TK doesn't is goodwill. Cultish, you know? Zeno says Randy versus Howdy will be a good feud. People keep telling me that, but historically, when Randy Orton gets involved with the Wyatts, it's not something people look back on too fondly. Chet says, do you think that with the Roman rebrand merch, is it possible for him to change his character? It is. Will he? Probably not. Danae says, have you heard anything about Hardy Boys main roster run? Nope. Rickan says, would love to see Ethan Page join Seth's faction. Fiend to Society says, is there plans for WWE to unify titles like the Nope? Paul says, will WWE turn Jacob Fatu babyface, seeing the fan chant for him? Maybe. Right now, they're very happy with him being a bit of a tweener, and they are planning to take advantage of it. Mike Brandt says, if Heyman is going to build a new stable, he needs Rusev. Nope. Rusev is really eager to stand on his own at the minute. Thank you, Michael. Says Mercedes would be the first woman to compete at Madison Square Garden, Wembley Stadium, Tokyo Dome, and Arena, Mexico. Thank you for the clarification, Michael. I appreciate you. You always know what's going on when it comes to Mercedes money. We have 59 likes. One more gets us to 60, and that's just on YouTube. Please, if you can, hit that thumbs up. On the TikTok side, 3,700. Thank you to so many of you who've already dropped in and said hi. Joey says, when do you think Sheamus will be back on TV? When the WWE have plans for him. At the moment, Sheamus is intentionally taking a little time away for one specific reason. He's building a brand right now. The Celtic Warrior workouts are doing exceptionally well on YouTube. The WWE are supporting him when it comes to the growth of his channel. And they've essentially said to him, look, right now, we're not really using you. What you can do is use some of our advertising and marketing team. we'll give you people, while they're getting a bit of time off, get them over with your workout channel. So that's the plan. One, goodwill means goodwill. It's hard to describe it, really. It's more that there will always be some fans who are cultish, who, if they're Tony Khan cultish people, believe that Tony Khan can do no wrong. If they're Triple H people, believe that Triple H can do no wrong. You'll always get those people. CM Punk has a lot of those people. They believe that CM Punk can do no wrong. And that's an example. Everyone has got some of these people. And Triple H right now has just got a lot more because he's not Vince McMahon. And people wanted rid of Vince McMahon for many good reasons. Calvin says, Rhea still got cheered when she was in Judgment Day. Same happened to China when she was in DX. Can you see the same happening for the new member of Seth's faction? It depends on one thing. Are they cool? Basically, if Carlito would not spit in your face, expect to be cheered. Because Carlito would definitely not spit at Jacob Fatu. But he would spit at Solo. Roy says, when Santino Marella called the Hardys hard boys. Everton is excited by the idea of Rusev versus Jey Uso or Rusev versus Dominic Mysterio. Always good options. Let's talk United States Championship, because the WWE under Jacob Fatu are planning to build a new division with Jacob Fatu as the core. Jacob Fatu looks set to be a key member of WWE SmackDown going forwards, and when it comes to his role in the WWE are planning to make sure this guy gets pushed hard. Now, by hard, I don't mean he's going to be winning the top championship tomorrow. I mean he's going to be on TV, wrestling every single week. You are never going to be without this guy. There is going to be the constant ongoing storyline with the family. They've rebranded the bloodline and called them the family. You're going to see that constantly and ongoing, but he'll also have individual offshoot storylines as well. And I do think, while the plan eventually is Jacob Fatu versus Solo Sikoa, right now, I like what they're doing. We have LA Knight making his appearance. We have Damian Priest involved in this United States Championship scene. We also have a big name in WWE in Drew McIntyre. I mentioned before WrestleMania, Drew McIntyre's intention was to keep Damian Priest hot, keep him popular, keep fans cheering for him. That was a success. Now they will continue, because the next steps are making sure that LA Knight still gets TV time, making sure that Jacob Fatu has a top level opponent to work with. Drew McIntyre is giving back, and he's giving back hard. The WWE are confident that fans are going to keep cheering Jacob Fatu, which is why they've made sure that you've got someone to boo stood right next to him in the form of Solo Sikoa. It is a heel-face pairing, and sometimes these factions do happen. Look at Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, for example. Now, when it comes to this particular grouping, Jacob Fatu and Solo Sikoa, the family, are on a collision course, but not before Jacob Fatu fully establishes himself, because the plan seems to be to have Solo Sikoa win the United States Championship and then Jacob Fatu completely take over the family. Drew McIntyre is there to take a beating. Thank you very much, Proud Dad, for sending that over. I appreciate you. Another donation is a very generous one. Thank you. Everton says, Jacob Fatu, my GOAT, acknowledgement, the tribal chief. Everton says, Fatal 4-Way Brewing, LA Knight, Drew, Priest, Fatu, US title backlash. What a card so far. And that is indeed what they are planning to put together. Personally, I'm very excited about it as a concept. Sounds amazing to me, and that's what I want to see. Now, I'm just going to put up a goal. For those not aware, what I do here is I just make we are live. I just make a lowest possible donation goal that I possibly can. So it's the lowest possible goal I can possibly make, which at this point is a £2 donation and just the one of them. That's there not necessarily to say to you, hey, give me money, because I'm not going to do that. That is there to essentially remind people, if they would like to, it is an option available to them. No one here will ever need to donate. No one here will ever be required to pay. You don't need to be a channel member. You don't need to make donations. The same is true of TikTok. You don't need to make donations. I am very appreciative if you do. It is not a requirement, and I will never be saying to you, I want your money. That is not what I do. On the TikTok side, as the channel grows, the lives grow, which means overall there are monetization options. I can make videos which contain sponsored content. I don't know what to do with them because it's stuff like, hey, this tune is going viral. The more views you get using this music, the more you'll get paid. That's not really my audience. So I don't really know what to do with it. Whereas on YouTube, at least we have very clear, very obvious ads. Any ad you see on YouTube is money in my pocket, and I appreciate you for checking them out. We continue to grow on YouTube. We're at a bit of a standstill at the moment, but that's because we are losing people from shorts who don't really have any shorts to watch anymore. Hopefully they're coming over to TikTok where we do the short form now. Whereas on TikTok, we've broken 1,500 and continue to grow. This is a great time to be Tom Colohue, I promise you that. A great time as well because we've got 69 likes, which is nice, but one more gets us to 70. So we've got one piece of news left to cover as regards Karrion Kross, and of course we'll keep catching up with the chat, but please be aware, there is a donation goal, simply as a reminder that you can, if you wish, donate. Right. Craig says Wyatt's and Judgment Day needs to happen. Would be good for both routes, but I think Alexa and Nikki will team up. Cal says, hey Tom, hope you and your family are well. Doing pretty well, thank you, Cal. Welcome to the show. Sean says, I wish Alexa didn't have to wait on the Wyatt 6. Many Alexa fans are at their breaking point. To be fair, it's only been a couple of months, whereas for the Wyatt, it's been a lot longer. Proud Dad says, just noticed the wall looks like renovations are progressing nicely. Slowly but surely. Oh, sorry, Danny, I didn't spot that. I do apologise. Thank you very much, Danny, for subscribing on the YouTube side as well. I appreciate that. Sorry I didn't read it out at the time. I was must have been otherwise engaged with news. Today I had a sample pot of the colour that I'm thinking of for the wall. That hopefully when the lights hit it, it will look good and not dingy. I like dark walls. Not everyone does. I don't know how it's going to translate on camera. But the colour I've gone for, and you can look this up, Venetian red. I've got a sample there in my eye line because my TV is just there, and a sample there in my eye line because it's as I leave the door. And I'm liking it. Needs another coat to be a bit thicker, but I like it so far. Venetian red. Check them out. Fiend says, I love that. I love Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu is the man. Carl, nothing new on the Wyatt 6. No. Rickon says, good. There's never enough Jacob TV time. Roy says that Shinsuke Nakamura leaving WWE. WWE have no plans to use him at this point in time. Rickon says, Jacob is the face and Solo is heel. Yes. Sean says, have you watched any of Evolve, Tom? I have not at this point. Gold says, wrestlers also like Triple H and say they're Triple H guys. Even Paul Heyman during his Hall of Fame says, I'm a Paul Levesque guy. Cal says, I was shocked to see no Wyatt on Friday. Me too. Hello, Johor. Declan says, hi, Tom. Hi, Declan. Ray said, did you see Fuego del Sol unmasks and leaves his boots in the ring and says goodbye to wrestling? I did indeed. Juan says, according to Fightful, Mina Shirakawa is set to return to AEW after signing with them. They also mentioned Mira leaving would be surprising, considering they bought her tag team partner, Mina. Bailey says, sorry if discussed earlier, if Roxanne moves up, is there any move-up plan for Cora Jade? Actively in discussion as we speak. It's not been finalised. There are a few things left to work out. Cal says, I'm sure WWE very, very happy with Bron Breakker after last Monday. Very, very happy indeed. And Calvin says, how is Aleister Black able to knock Miz's lights out with that kick? Didn't look like he hit him hard. Well, I mean, wrestling, mate. They do the best they can. Everton says, the R-Truth Cena segment on SmackDown was so fun. Little bits that really go very far. The last piece of news is on Karrion Kross. So just before I get to it, we have 371 views on the YouTube right now. 75 likes, 127 people here. Thank you. We have 4 people on the TikTok, 4,600 likes. Thank you. This news is on Karrion Kross. WrestleVotes have reported that Karrion Kross will get a big push, but not that big and not really a push. WrestleVotes seemingly continuing their sterling record as we saw it on the Wrestling Receipt. So Tom Colohue is reporting that Karrion Kross has requested a name change back to Killer Kross for his next contract, and now that WWE are on Netflix, Nick Khan and Triple H are open to it. There is a negotiation ongoing as regards the contract situation. Karrion Kross is looking for more, and the WWE, in particular Triple H, have challenged him to get himself pushed. When he made references to viral moments, he was creating a viral moment. He had been told, you need to get yourself over. You need to make people care. We're giving you opportunities here. We're getting you on screen. You need to meet us halfway. He hasn't met them halfway. He's taken over. So from where I'm sitting, it is a huge impact. And Karrion Kross wants to go back to Killer Kross, make his viral moment, and get his just desserts. Everton says WWE did show a truck behind scene with a 6 on them, a tease for their return. Jess says WrestleVotes just says anything, and Everton agrees that Kross has created a viral moment. Hi Kira, good to see you. Thank you for all the comments on the video. Calvin says, will Karrion be pushed into the IC title scene? A lot of things moving around right now, guys. A lot of things moving around. Welcome, Matta. Good to see you. Welcome. Okay, that is all our news today. So we're going to wrap it up there. Massive thank you to everyone who has joined us and everyone who's checked us out. We are, as I say, continuing to grow. There was a point we were averaging 100 viewers, but over the last few weeks, we are now averaging closer to 120, which shows how many new people have joined over the last few weeks. So a huge thank you to everyone. For now, though, I will say, as usual, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.